happened was, right, I was literally just minding my business, and I realized that the coat that I had on didn't really go. So I was like, you know what? Let me go get another one.
Everything you thought you knew about this situation just shattered. Because what happened on New Year's Eve wasn't just a celebration, it was a statement. And the moment those clips hit the internet, it felt like the entire timeline stopped breathing. Because there they were, Remy Ma and Papoose, stepping into the new year together like nothing had changed. Same energy, same chemistry, same presence that people thought was long gone. And the visuals? Oh, they didn't whisper. They screamed. Luxury fur coats, champagne glasses raised, smiles that looked a little too comfortable, moments that felt a little too intentional. Like this wasn't just a coincidence. It was a message that someone, somewhere, was going to feel. And that someone, Claressa Shields. Because the second those clips started circulating, everything exploded. Well, fans flooded social media. Old rumors came back to life. Receipts resurfaced. And suddenly, what used to feel confusing started looking very clear. Because here's the part nobody can ignore. If everything was really over, if everything had truly moved on, then why did that moment look like a rewind instead of a new chapter? And here's where it gets even more intense. Because Claressa didn't stay quiet. Not this time. Her reaction? It wasn't loud. It wasn't messy. It was something far more dangerous, cold, calculated, and laced with a kind of frustration that doesn't come from confusion. It comes from realization. Because what if this whole situation was never as over as people were led to believe? And what if that New Year's Eve moment wasn't just a coincidence, but proof of something much deeper still going on behind the scenes? Because trust me, what's about to come out next, it's going to turn this entire story upside down. The second that New Year's Eve footage hit the internet, everything snapped into focus, and at the same time, everything fell apart. Because this wasn't some blurry fan clip or a random sighting in the background. This was clear, intentional, front and center. Remy Ma and Papoose walking into the new year, side by side like a perfectly rehearsed scene nobody warned the audience about. The lighting, the outfits, the timing. It all felt too polished to be accidental. And the internet? It didn't just react, it erupted. Within minutes, clips were everywhere. Slow-motion edits, zoom-ins, side-by-side comparisons with old footage from years ago when everything between them was still publicly solid. And the comments? Relentless. Why does this look like nothing ever changed? That's not co-parenting energy. That's something else. Meanwhile, Claressa Shields was trending, and she hadn't even said a word yet. Because people already knew. They knew this moment wasn't just about who showed up. It was about what it meant. And what it meant didn't look good. Then came the first reaction. Not a statement, not an interview. A clip, short, casual on the surface, but the tone, anything but casual. Claressa talking about something completely different, or at least pretending to, showing off a coat, smiling, moving through a space like everything was fine. But something was off. Her voice, her pauses, the way she emphasized certain words, and the internet caught it immediately, because underneath that calm exterior, there was tension. Frustration. A kind of emotional fatigue you can't fake. And once people saw it, they couldn't unsee it. That's not excitement, that's irritation. She's holding back. You can tell she knows. Those comments spread fast. Because now, her reaction wasn't just being watched, it was being decoded. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, according to multiple insiders, things were already heating up. Because that New Year's Eve moment, it wasn't just seen by the public, it was seen by her, in real time. And according to one source, her initial response wasn't loud, it was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that makes people nervous. Because instead of reacting emotionally, she allegedly started asking questions, specific ones, about timing, about location, about who knew what, and when. And those questions, they didn't come from confusion. They came from suspicion, because this wasn't just about seeing them together. It was about how comfortable they looked doing it. And comfort doesn't happen overnight. That's built, maintained, protected, and that realization, it changed everything. Then came the first leak, a screenshot, allegedly from a private conversation, time-stamped hours before midnight. One message stood out: "Pull up, we keeping it low-key but not hiding." That line, it didn't just raise eyebrows, it flipped the entire narrative. Because low-key but not hiding, that's not accidental, that's intentional ambiguity. And suddenly, people weren't just asking why they were together. They were asking how long they had been planning to be seen together. Meanwhile, Papoose stayed silent. No posts, no clarification, no denial. And that silence? It started feeling heavier by the minute, because now every second without a response looked like confirmation. And then came the second leak. This time, audio. Muffled, short, but clear enough to spark chaos. A voice believed by some to be Remy, laughing, saying, "They always watching anyway." And another voice, lower, harder to place, responding, "Let them." That exchange? It changed the energy instantly. Because now it didn't feel like a private moment caught publicly. It felt like a public moment allowed intentionally. And the internet? It lost control again. Because if that audio was real, then this wasn't coincidence. This was awareness. And awareness means choice. Meanwhile, fans of Remy Ma jumped in fast, defending, reframing, saying it was just family, just history, just two people stepping into the new year with familiarity. But others? They weren't buying it, because the body language didn't match that explanation, the energy didn't match that narrative, and the timing? It was too perfect. Because New Year's Eve isn't just any night. It's symbolic. It's intentional. It's where people choose who they step into the future with, and who they don't. And that choice spoke louder than any statement. Meanwhile, Claressa Shields posted again. Another clip. Another casual moment. But this time, the tone shifted. Less light. More direct. She didn't mention names, didn't reference the situation. But one line stood out. "I don't compete with nobody for what's mine." That was it. But it hit like a bomb. Because now the message wasn't subtle. It was clear. And the internet? It reacted instantly. Wait, what does she mean by that? Is she claiming him? Or calling something out? Who is she talking to? And just like that, the situation escalated again. Because now it wasn't just about what happened. It was about what was being said, without being said. And the tension? It kept building. Then came another insider claim. This one more detailed, more specific. It alleged that the New Year's Eve meetup wasn't spontaneous, that it had been discussed days in advance, coordinated, planned, even down to the timing of arrival. And if that's true, then everything people saw was intentional. Every glance, every moment, every frame. And that realization, it made everything heavier. Because now, the question wasn't just about relationships. It was about respect, transparency, and what people are willing to show publicly versus what they're willing to explain privately. Meanwhile, Papoose still hadn't spoken. And that silence, it was becoming impossible to ignore. Because in a situation this loud, not speaking is a decision. And people were reading that decision in real time. But just when it felt like the tension couldn't rise any higher. One final detail surfaced. Quiet. Almost overlooked, but devastating once noticed. Because in one of the NYE clips, just for a second, barely visible, someone caught it. A reflection. In a glass surface. Another figure. Standing slightly behind them. Watching. And when people zoomed in, they couldn't fully confirm who it was, but the speculation, immediate, explosive. Because if that figure is who people think it is, then this entire situation is even more layered than anyone realized. And just before the clip cut, a voice, faint, almost missed, could be heard saying, "She already knows." And if that's true, then everything that's happened so far was never hidden. The moment people heard those 3 words, "She already knows," the entire narrative flipped on its head. Because up until that point, everything felt like exposure, like something hidden had been revealed. But if she already knew, then this wasn't exposure, this was escalation. And suddenly, the New Year's Eve moment didn't look like a mistake, it looked like a move, a calculated, deliberate, unapologetic move. The internet didn't just react this time, it spiraled into full investigation mode. Clips were slowed down to fractions of seconds, or audio enhanced, background noise isolated, people searching for any clue that could confirm what that voice meant. And then, another angle surfaced, a different video, shot from across the room, clearer, wider. And in that version, you could see more, much more. The positioning, the distance, the way Remy leaned in slightly while speaking, the way Papoose didn't move away, didn't create space, didn't signal separation. And that detail, it changed everything. Because now, people weren't just analysing what was said, they were analysing what wasn't done, and what wasn't done spoke volumes. Meanwhile, Claressa Shields stopped posting. Completely. No clips, no captions, no subtle messages, nothing. And that silence? It felt different from before. Before, it felt controlled. Now, it felt heavy. Like something was happening behind the scenes. Something bigger than social media. And according to insiders, that's exactly what was happening. Because within hours of that footage going viral, there was allegedly a confrontation. Private, intense, and long overdue. No cameras, no audience. Just truth being forced into the open. Sources claim Claressa Shields didn't come in emotional. She came in focused, direct, asking questions that didn't leave room for vague answers. When did this start? Why wasn't I told? What am I actually a part of? And those questions, they weren't about feelings anymore. They were about clarity, because confusion had turned into realization. Meanwhile, Papoose, according to those same insiders, didn't respond the way people expected. No immediate denial, no clear explanation, just pauses, long ones. And in situations like this, pauses say everything words don't. Because silence in the face of direct questions feels like confirmation, or at least something close to it. And that's when things escalated. Because according to one source, that's when the receipts came out. Not internet leaks, not rumors, real personal evidence, messages, dates, moments that didn't align with the story that had been told publicly. And once those were on the table, there was no going back. Meanwhile, the internet caught wind of something else. A tweet, posted, then deleted within minutes. But not before screenshots spread everywhere. 6 words. That's all it said. Stop playing with me. I'm not her. No name attached, no confirmation. But people believed they knew exactly who it came from. And that line? It didn't just add fuel to the fire. It poured gasoline on it, because now the tension wasn't just implied, it was visible, raw, and personal. Meanwhile, Remy reappeared online, not addressing the situation directly, not explaining anything, just posting. Calm, composed, unbothered. And that energy? It sent the internet into another meltdown, because people expected reaction, emotion, something. But instead, they got silence wrapped in confidence. And that combination, it made everything feel intentional, like she wasn't reacting, because she didn't feel the need to. And that perception shifted the narrative again, Because now people weren't just questioning what happened, they were questioning power, control, who really had the upper hand in this situation, and who didn't. Meanwhile, celebrity reactions started rolling in, subtle at first, then louder, with tweets about knowing your place, posts about unfinished business, stories about respect being non-negotiable, no names, no direct mentions, but the timing, too perfect. And fans connected the dots instantly, because in moments like this, silence speaks, but so do hints. And right now the entire industry felt like it was whispering about the same thing. But just when it seemed like everything had already reached its peak, another leak dropped. And this one changed everything, because it wasn't video, it wasn't audio, it was a message thread, long, detailed, and if real, devastating. Messages between two people, names partially hidden, but context unmistakable, references to holidays, to appearances, to keeping things separate but together. And one line that hit harder than anything else: she doesn't need to know everything. That sentence, it shattered whatever illusion was left, because now this wasn't confusion. It was concealment, intentional, sustained, and now exposed. The internet didn't just react, it turned. Because now sympathy shifted, perspectives changed, and suddenly the entire situation felt less like drama and more like damage, real damage, to trust, to image, to relationships that might not recover from this. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, according to multiple insiders, things reached a breaking point, because after everything, after the footage, after the leaks, after the confrontation, one final question was asked. A question that, according to sources, changed everything. So what are you choosing? And that question didn't come with options. It came with consequences, because at this point, there was no middle ground left, no figuring it out, no taking time, just a decision. And whatever that decision was, it would define everything that came next. But here's where it takes a turn nobody expected. Because just as people were waiting for an answer, waiting for a statement, waiting for clarity, another voice entered the situation. Unexpected, uninvited, and extremely dangerous. Because this voice claims to have been there, that night, in that room, watching everything unfold. And according to them, what the public saw was only half the story. And just before disappearing, they left one message. The countdown wasn't the only thing hitting zero that night. That message didn't just linger, it detonated. Because the second people read, the countdown wasn't the only thing hitting zero that night, the entire story shifted from messy to catastrophic. Because now this wasn't just about a public moment, it was about what happened after, behind the music, behind the cameras, behind the smiles, and suddenly everyone wanted one thing, the full story. And then it came. Not from a verified account, not from a celebrity, from that same anonymous insider. A drop, a thread, detailed, specific, and terrifyingly believable. They claimed they were there, inside the venue, close enough to see everything unfold in real time. Not just the entrance, not just the public interaction, but the aftermath, the shift, the moment everything changed. According to this insider, the energy in the room wasn't celebratory for long, because within minutes of that now viral moment, something snapped. Not publicly, not loudly, but visibly. They described a shift in Papoose's demeanor, from relaxed to tense, from smiling to distracted, like he knew something was coming. And then it did. Because according to the account, Claressa Shields showed up, unannounced, unexpected, and completely unbothered on the surface. But underneath, something else, something controlled, calculated, and dangerously calm. The insider claims the room felt it instantly. That kind of presence doesn't need volume. It doesn't need attention. It commands it. And suddenly, the celebration didn't feel like a celebration anymore. It felt like a countdown. Not to midnight, but to confrontation. They say she didn't rush, didn't react emotionally, didn't cause a scene. She walked in, looked around, and locked eyes. First with him, then with her. And in that moment, everything stopped. No music, no movement, just tension, thick enough to feel. And then she spoke. Not loud, not dramatic, but clear enough for the people closest to hear. So this is what we're doing now? That line, according to the insider, it hit harder than anything else that night because it wasn't confusion, it wasn't surprise, it was confirmation. And from there, everything escalated, not into chaos, but into something colder, a conversation, sharp, direct, and impossible to ignore. The insider claims Papoose tried to de-escalate, tried to move things away from the public eye, but it was too late, because the moment had already happened, and the damage was already done. Meanwhile, Remy Ma allegedly didn't react the way people expected either. No shouting, no visible emotion, just stillness. Watching, listening, like someone who wasn't surprised, just done explaining. And that dynamic? It made everything even more intense, because now this wasn't about who was louder. It was about who was certain and who wasn't. According to the insider, the conversation ended, not with a resolution, but with a statement. A quiet one, delivered directly. If I have to question it, I'm done with it. And after that, she left. Just like that. No scene, no breakdown, just exit. But that exit, it shook everything. Because moments like that don't end when people walk away. They echo, they ripple, they force decisions. And according to sources, that's exactly what happened next. Because after she left, the atmosphere shifted completely. No more celebration, no more pretending, just reality. And that's when the second confrontation allegedly happened. Private, away from the crowd. And this time, there were no cameras, no filters, no performance, just truth, unfiltered. And according to multiple insiders, that's where everything finally came out. Admissions, clarifications, things that had been avoided for too long. And once those words were said, there was no putting them back. Meanwhile, the internet was still catching up, still reacting to the clips, still debating what they had seen, completely unaware of what had already unfolded behind the scenes, until another leak dropped. And this one confirmed everything. A voice note, clear, short, and devastating. A voice, believed by many to be Claressa, saying, "I'm not competing, I'm removing myself." That line, it didn't just trend, it took over. Because now it wasn't speculation anymore. It was a decision. And decisions change everything. Within minutes, the internet flipped again. Support poured in. Debates exploded, people choosing sides, analysing every detail all over again, but now with a different lens. Because now the story wasn't about confusion. It was about clarity. And clarity ends illusions. Meanwhile, Papoose still hadn't made a public statement. And that silence, it felt heavier than ever. Because now there was something to respond to. And not responding looked like avoidance. Or worse, acceptance. Meanwhile, Remy Ma posted one final thing. No caption, no explanation, just a photo. From that night, smiling, unbothered. And that image? It sent one last shockwave through everything. Because it didn't clarify anything. It didn't resolve anything. It just existed. Like a statement without words. And sometimes, that's the loudest kind. Now the dust hasn't settled. It's still moving, still shifting. Because insiders are saying this isn't over. That there are still conversations happening. Still decisions being made. Still truths that haven't been fully revealed. And if even one more piece drops, this entire situation could explode all over again. Because what started as a New Year's Eve moment has turned into something much bigger, a breakdown, a realization, a turning point that none of them can walk back from. And if there's one thing this story has proven, it's that the truth doesn't come all at once. It comes in layers. And the most dangerous layer is always the one that hasn't been exposed yet. If you've made it this far, then you already know this isn't just another story. This is a situation that's still unfolding. And the scariest part? We're probably not even at the end yet, because with everything that's already come out, the footage, the reactions, the leaks, the confrontations, there are still unanswered questions hanging in the air. What really happened behind the scenes that night? What hasn't been said publicly yet? And who's still holding on to receipts that could flip this entire story all over again? So don't just sit back and watch this play out from a distance. Hit that like button right now, because every like pushes this conversation further into the spotlight. And trust me, there are people who would rather this whole thing disappear. Or jump into the comments and tell me what you think really went down. Was that moment intentional? Was it disrespect? Or is there something even deeper we haven't seen yet? And most importantly, subscribe. Because the second another clip drops, another voice speaks out, or another leak hits the timeline, you need to be the first to know. Turn on notifications, stay locked in, and don't blink. Because this story, it's moving in real time. And the next update could change everything.